Hey everyone, it's Sky again. We're going to do something different today. We're going to talk about how to watch Gundam videos. There's a lot of high-level gameplay videos online. It's an incredible resource that can help anyone sharpen their craft in-game, if you know how to decipher it. So how do we do that? And what kind of information should we be looking for? First off, let me say that there are plenty of reasons to watch these kinds of videos, and there's a lot of information you can extract from them that won't be covered in this video. This video is intended to give you a guideline into what I believe to be the most generally valuable things you can get, and the things I'll cover here will better inform the minutiae. Before we start, I want to plug two things. The first is my Twitch stream. I stream semi-regularly over at twitch.tv/SKYEKUN. If you're so inclined, feel free to drop in, hang out, talk to me, maybe follow and subscribe. The sky's the limit. Also, I am a part of a Discord community server called GN Resonance. It's an Extreme Versus Discord server that is tailor-made for newcomers. So if you ever watch this video or someone else's video and think to yourself, gosh golly, I'd love to play Mobile Suit Gundam Extreme Versus Maxi Boost On for the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, then we got the resources for you to get your bearings in there, along with plenty of veteran players to help with any questions or advice. Links to both are in the description, and I hope to see you there. This video will be split in 4 parts, or rather 2 parts, with each part having 2 subsections. For novice skill levels and up, watching videos can help you learn how to play a mobile suit and the depth of the mechanics. If I had to place this on a spectrum, it would be around here. It's around here that I expect you to have an understanding of the controls, a basic understanding on resources, team composition, and win conditions. So the first one is obvious. If you're looking to learn a suit, it's helpful to see that suit play at the highest level you can. This helps you understand how to properly apply your suit's tools in conventional and unconventional ways. It lets you see good burst application, cancel routes that you probably weren't aware of, or the extent to which they're helpful or how. Pay close attention to the smaller details like how they approach, how they defend. In addition to learning a suit in a vacuum, it's important to see how it plays its matchups, what it has to deal with, and how best to do so. A good piece of advice is to pay attention to what this player is doing that you're not doing, and try to mimic it the best you can. Second, let's talk about the depth of the mechanics in the game. It's one thing to read up on a mechanic and know that it exists. It's a different thing entirely to see it in action, applied at high level play. This is an extension to the first point if you think about it. Learning a suit requires some understanding of the game's mechanics, and this point is taking that concept out of the specificity of just learning an individual suit. This broadens your insight on how better to understand the mechanics in play so you can apply all that you can to every suit that you play. This also affects how you approach your opponents and how you look at a match as a whole. What in this immediate moment are you capable of? And will it help in some way? How will you set up your next play? Understanding the game's mechanics can help better answer these questions, and there's no better way to see that than in high-level gameplay videos. Things like using a block to set up favorable situations, using a fast fall to create distance, burst timings. Watching gameplay videos will help inform you to use these mechanics in a variety of ways. Pay attention to how these basic mechanics come into play, like how delaying your landing with a hop or a boost dash can protect you from sniper shots, how altitude is used to buy time for yourself. Small details like this exist in almost every match you play in, so take note and apply. So if you're better at the game than previously described, then you likely already know this. But even at a higher level, there's information to extract from those same high-level videos. With accumulated experience, you can up your level of play by watching videos, and we're going to cover that now in the second half. For intermediate skill levels and up, watching videos can help you learn the depth of resource management and game sense. So like before, let's start with the simpler concept, the depth of resource management. Needless to say, Extreme Versus games are games of resources. The HP of your suit, the ammo capacity of every tool that has one, cooldown times, boost meter, burst meter, the team health gauge, all of these things not just for you, but for the other 3 players in a match. You're always trying to manage your resources better relative to your opponents. It's important to bring relativity into this equation because the resources a suit has is for all intents and purposes determined by its cost range. Higher cost suits will come with more resources or a larger pool of resources, with some specific exceptions. And all the management of resources is leveraging all of these things in macro and micro situations to come out ahead. So let's give some quick and easy examples. Taking risks to do damage is a play for resources. If you can get the damage, then good. Doing more damage than the opposing team blow for blow is a net gain. But if not, you're trading health for burst meter, which lets you make up that damage in spades. This is an extreme example to best highlight the dynamics in play. There are micro examples like staying close to the ground after seeing an opponent take flight in the air to keep your level of boost higher than theirs, increasing your chances of getting a punish, or holding on to a move that allows you to free fall to use as self-defense, as opposed to using it just as a movement tool. Other macro examples include the front suit taking less caution at the end of its first life to make sure they die first, preventing an overcost situation, or dying to help give their partner more burst meter. Resource management is an endlessly deep concept, and even at high levels there's new things to learn, different ways of looking at the dynamics in play. Watching videos gives you a bird's eye view of these dynamics. It's hard to focus on them in a real game starting out, and it's always a good thing to pause and rewind and re-examine what's going on and why. Pay attention to small details like how the end of the first half of the game plays out. Who's being aggressive? Who's being passive? What is everyone's HP like? These things help inform you of your best next step in a match. Decisions like if it's worth it chasing an overcost situation, who's close to burst, who's better equipped to just run away if things get hectic. At high level, these elements are determined by the available resources in play. Understanding the depth of resource management is mandatory to the last part we will be discussing, developing game sense. Alright, now let's take this from the top. How do you define game sense? Game sense is, in my view, the combination of 2 things that simultaneously apply in a match. Understanding the state of resources and understanding the flow of the game. This is where depth of resource management comes into play. If you can understand the state of resources, not just for you, but for your opponents and even your partner, you can further deconstruct these concepts in a real game that you're playing in. Unless you're specifically told to learn this, you can go a long way in this game without ever needing to consider this. I say this only to underscore the fact that learning this will undoubtedly make you a much stronger player. Knowing when options are available for all parties involved, again, is mandatory to understanding the flow of the game. So now game flow. Game flow is itself 2 things. The first is spatial awareness, knowing where everyone currently is and wants to be, instinctively. You acquire this with more experience naturally, because if you spend too much time looking at the mini-map, you'll be losing out on much more valuable information that's happening in the match. The mini-map is more of a reference point to intuitively knowing where everyone is. If you're in a situation where you're between 2 opponents, this is where this skill shines the best, and it's the most obvious thing one can point to, as target switching in this situation can disorient you. You want to move and navigate more on instinct than trying to visually confirm where the pressure is coming from. Game flow is also understanding the tempo of the game. I've identified 3 tempos for you to visually understand this. So let's start slow. The third tempo is when neither side is pressing offensively. It's pure defensive play, staying more or less at the tip of your red lock range and looking to get damage by capitalizing on your opponent's mistakes. This is the most volatile state of the game. You'll find that it's easier to speed the game up than slow it down. The ability to slow the pace of the game will more come down to picking suits that can force a slower tempo than it being a player's skill, although large skill gaps can make enforcing third tempo possible this way. More specifically, whoever gets knocked down first is at a disadvantage in third tempo, and allows the opposing team to act more aggressively. Unless you're playing a team that only wants third tempo until burst is available. Suits like Penelope, Banshee Norn, GPO3, Strike Freedom, EXS, and etc. Suits that prefer slower play in general. Whoever forces their opponent on the back foot can accelerate the pace. You'll most often see third tempo play at the very beginning of a match, and sometimes even at the very end. You'll see it at the start because, as I mentioned before, whoever gets the knockdown first is at an advantage, so third tempo is kind of a proving ground to getting first blood. Because if you can get the first advantage, you could, in theory, maintain it for most of the first half of the game, which is huge. And there are situations at the end of a match where everyone is at low HP, one knockdown away from losing, all burst meter is spent, so the game slows down to a crawl because in classic third tempo fashion, whoever gets hit won't make it. Second tempo is when a team is making a basic offensive push. Most games will spend most of their time in second tempo. This is where you see a lot of positioning and tighter formations like the classic L and I formation, or maybe even a team trying to force a time-on or a double 1v1. Incidentally, this is the default tempo for melee suits, although you will see a lot of melee suits strategically pursue first tempo instead, which we'll get to later. This is the default for melee suits because melee suits don't have the luxury of going on the defensive after getting knocked down, because they will have to close the distance. A melee suit playing in third tempo is at an innate disadvantage, because chances are their red lock range is not far enough to play third tempo without similar risk at second tempo, and their range tools, if they even exist, are fairly weak and will lose in a firefight. Although please note that sometimes a melee suit has to take that disadvantage and play at third tempo, typically when they're far behind in a game or at low health on their second life. It's one of those built-in cons of playing melee suits. Otherwise, you get the idea. Second tempo is when you're forcing your opponent to deal with your offense. First tempo is the state of the game where burst is available, and it's that time spent getting in an ideal position to make the most offensive use of that burst. This is where the game moves the fastest. For suits that prefer slower play, they want to play in third tempo and then skip right past second tempo into first with a scary offensive push for damage using burst. You'll see first tempo most often near the end of the first half of the match, where one or more suits approach 0 HP and lose a life. You'll see first tempo play one or more times in the second half of the match, as the need for offensive pushes become more important to the outcome of the match. To put a point on it, the goal of this game is to enforce your desired tempo, which change depending on the conditions of the match at any given point in time. Understanding game flow requires understanding these concepts or something similar, and game sense is the understanding of game flow and the state of resources, because when you combine them, you understand that the resources in play dictate the desired tempo of each individual suit in the game. This game sense will inform your decisions in real time, so you're making the best possible move at all times in a match. Or at least that's what you want to do. There's so many clashing wills in the game that it's nearly impossible for absolutely everything to go according to plan. At least one player's plans fail every game. But that's kind of what makes it fun, right? And to anyone who got the reference, if I had to name a minus tempo, it would be the frantic part of the game where everyone activates their burst in a do or die scramble for victory and survival. There are more factors to game sense, like player habits, but those are polished with actual gameplay. For the sake of watching videos, this is what you're looking to get from it. Watching high-level videos to develop a comprehensive game sense involves understanding and sometimes even predicting the change in tempo by observing the resources in play and their current availability, notably burst and HP, but also the weapons each suit has and where and how best to use them. Pay close attention to these things and how other players respond to them. And that's all we'll be covering in this episode. I hope it was easy to understand, and I hope I added some unique insight to the wealth of information you can get by watching videos. Please, let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and I'll see you all next time. Peace. We covered watching videos, but I know what you're thinking. We have replays in EXVSMBON. What info can I extract there? Well, you're in luck. There's a whole different slate of reasons to look back on your replays, wins and losses, and there's even some tidbits that you can only get through replays. Next episode, how to watch Gundam replays. Don't miss it.